Hello everyone, and welcome back to JT on the Go. Today we are visiting the United States Astronaut Hall of Fame here at the Kennedy Space Center to learn about all the astronauts that contributed to NASA's triumphant history. The Astronauts Hall of Fame here at the Kennedy Space Center was opened on October 29, 1990. It later went through a major transformation and relocation in 2016, reopening as the new Heroes and Legends attraction here at the Kennedy Space Center. Ticket prices to visit the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida cost $77 for anyone 12 or older and $67 for kids between 3 to 11 years old. On the left is a replica of the Mercury Redstone rocket that blasted Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom into space, two of the 7 Mercury astronauts on their suborbital flights. At the entrance, there is a larger Mercury Atlas rocket, which blasted the rest of the 7 Mercury astronauts into Earth orbit. The best time to visit the Kennedy Space Center is during the off-season, midweek, Monday through Thursdays in the mornings. Once you enter the building, you'll watch 2 shows. The first is about heroes that inspired generations. The second is about some of NASA's most famous astronauts. And this is a model of NASA's rockets that were used in the space race. I visited and filmed this place in March of 2025 before I was due to film my 8-part series about the Disney treasure, and the weather out here is beautiful. As I mentioned earlier, upon entering, you'll see a video that will last approximately 6 minutes about heroes that inspired generations. Here is a short clip so you will know what to expect. Great show. Now we are heading into the theater where the second show is going to play. This one will make you feel like you're in the movie, even without 3D glasses.
I wonder what it was like to be one of those first astronauts.
The first astronaut we're learning about is Alan Shepard, the first American in space.
Another desire of all pilots, when you walk up to the airplane, you always kick the tires just to be sure they're not flat. This particular rocket I was never going to see again, so I just stopped as I approached it, looked up into the glare of the spotlights, and took a look at the rocket. Sort of another way of kicking the tires, so to speak.
All of the Mercury 7 astronauts were military test pilots. Alan Shepard was one of 3 U.S. naval aviators selected. He was also one of the most intelligent and capable of the 7. After Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space, NASA responded with Project Mercury, and on May 5, 1961, Alan Shepard launched on Freedom 7, becoming the first American astronaut in space. Alan Shepard later walked on the moon on Apollo 14. Neil Armstrong, one of the most famous alumni of Purdue University, was the first man to walk on the moon.
Our orbit was primarily over ocean areas, out of range of flight controllers and tracking stations. We were on our own.
He was part of the New 9, which was a second group of astronauts selected before Project Gemini. He flew on Gemini 8 before flying on Apollo 11. Gemini 8 flew one of the most important missions that needed to be done before the Apollo program. To go to the moon, we needed to learn how to dock with another spacecraft. The mission of Gemini 8 was to dock with the Agena spacecraft. On this mission, the astronauts were tested. This is when things went more sideways.
I'm not hearing a thruster's fire. Let's go to ACS off, phones power We're at a spin. It's the Agena. Send command 400. Undock now. It's actually getting worse. Power the system off.
A thruster became stuck, which spun Gemini 8 out of control. This was a very life-threatening scenario because if the spacecraft spins too fast, the excessive rotation will cause structural failure, and the spacecraft will explode.
Try the re-entry control system. It might just give us the correction we need.
However, even though this happened, Gemini 8 was still successful because it achieved its primary goal to dock with another spacecraft in Earth orbit.
We're regaining control of the spacecraft slowly, in RCS direct.
We're coming in for dash 3.
I'd like to argue with him, but I don't know we can. Command, we will prep for emergency landing at 7-3.
Gemini 8, I have some rescue down for you. The Mason.
The space program was just starting, and when they put out their
Before becoming the first American to orbit the Earth and helping the US catch up to the Soviet Union, John Glenn participated in the Korean War, specifically for the aces of the Korean War.
The Marines were being tossed into some of the toughest combat in the early World War II, and then went back out in the Korean War. One people who had worked under stress and duress and had come through okay.
Glenn was a highly decorated Marine aviator but was not officially an ace of the war. The aces of the Korean War was the first virtually all-jet war between US F-86 Sabres and MiG-15s of the North Korean and Chinese Air Forces.
You have to remember,
Jim Lovell flew on Gemini 7, Gemini 12, Apollo 8, and Apollo 13. His inspiration was Charles Lindbergh, who flew the first successful flight between the US and France.
one of them, of course, was Charles Lindbergh. They asked me if I would sort of escort Lindbergh down on the beach watching for the launch of Apollo 11.
In 1969, Lovell and Lindbergh watched the launch of Apollo 11.
It'll be a memorable flight. Kind of like your first flight across the Atlantic. The flight I'll remember most is your Apollo 8. The first flight to go around the moon. Now we're going to land on that moon.
As I walked with my hero, looked up at that flaming candle taking off for the stars, it all came full circle. A spark of inspiration shaped my career. And my journey took me beyond my wildest dreams to places like the moon. We had just to turn that spark into a flame with the fuel of curiosity. To learn from our failures, never give up until the goal was reached. My heroes and their heroes before them were driven by this notion. So was the entire NASA team when they started this amazing journey into space. Our heroes and legends drive us into the future. Each generation inspires the next to go further into the unknown, beyond our solar system, beyond our galaxy. I can't wait to see where you will go.
Great show. Now we are going to the museum portion. What we see here is a module of the Mercury Redstone rocket with the insides of the Mercury capsule visible. For all astronauts, they were inspired. They were passionate. They were curious. They were tenacious. They were disciplined. They were confident. They were courageous. They were principled. And they were selfless. Here is a replica of the mission control used for the Mercury missions. The real Mercury Control Center is here in Cape Canaveral, Florida. It was also used for early Gemini flights before mission control operations were moved to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Here we see a Gemini capsule and its insides. The takeaway from this section of the Kennedy Space Center is, you can become anything you want to be. I do have a video about the Kennedy Space Center as a whole. We're now entering the United States Astronauts Hall of Fame. A lot of America's famous astronauts were in the US military. This first section has the astronauts that flew on Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions. The Mercury 7 astronauts are on the left, and the new 9 of the Gemini program are over here. This is where you'll find most of America's famous astronauts. Keep in mind, some of these astronauts never made it home. It is important that they be recognized for the sacrifice they made to help us better understand space travel. This section contains all of the famous astronauts that flew on the space shuttle. This is where we would see a more diverse collection of astronauts. In this Hall of Fame, there are the faces and names of selected astronauts and the missions each of them flew. I really like how they made this Hall of Fame. If you enjoyed this video, please like this video, comment, and subscribe for more. Kennedy Space Center is a place full of inspiration, and the US Astronauts Hall of Fame is the center of it. Take care.